So, what would it actually take to kidnap a president? Today, we're going to dive into a pretty dramatic hypothetical laid out in our source material, a secret military operation designed to capture a sitting head of state.
It's a really bold question, isn't it? And it's right at the heart of the story we're unpacking. And according to this account, it all kicks off on a specific night in a very specific place.
The source sets the scene in the near future. We're talking 2 a.m., when pretty much the entire world is supposed to be fast asleep.
And the location for all this? Caracas, Venezuela. Thousands of miles away from Washington, D.C., a plan is just about to be set into motion. And the very first move in this unprecedented mission, the operation starts with a citywide cyber attack, which plunges the entire capital of Venezuela into total darkness.
So, what did this mission actually look like? Well, according to the source material, it was codenamed Operation Absolute Resolve, and the target was none other than Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro himself.
Okay, so the operation is laid out as this multi-pronged assault. First up, that cyber attack creates chaos. Then, under the cover of all that darkness, stealth helicopters fly in super low. We're talking just 100 feet over the ocean to stay completely off the radar. After that, airstrikes take out all the air defenses, which clears the way for the final move, Delta Force commandos storming the president's residence. The source claims the capture itself would take just minutes. It's all described as this swift, shocking, and perfectly coordinated raid.
And get this alleged quote from Donald Trump, reported in the source, really captures the surreal, almost cinematic quality of the event. Apparently, it unfolded on a live feed in a secure room in Florida, a military operation being watched like it was some kind of primetime drama.
Now, if you successfully capture a foreign president on his own soil, that's immediately going to raise two huge questions. First, what on earth was the motive behind such a drastic action? And second, what kind of precedent does this set for the rest of the world?
To really understand the why, we have to look at two very, very different stories that came out of this. You've got the official reason for the raid, and then there's the reason our source material argues was the real motivation.
And right here, you can see those two competing narratives side by side. The official justification, as our source reports it, was all about narco-terrorism. President Maduro had actually been indicted in New York on drug trafficking charges. But the source's central argument is that this was just a convenient cover story. The true motivation, it claims, was for something far more valuable: oil, and the desire to control Venezuela's absolutely massive reserves.
So, let's explore that primary argument from the source, that this entire high-stakes operation was, at the end of the day, all about oil. And to really grasp the scale of what was at stake, we need to start with one single massive number.
303 billion. That's how many barrels of proven crude oil reserves the source says are sitting under Venezuela. It's a number so huge it could literally reshape the entire global energy map. And this chart really puts that number into perspective. According to the data in our source, Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves on the entire planet. Yep, even more than Saudi Arabia. You can see the US has just a tiny fraction of that. This isn't just a resource, it's a strategic asset of immense global importance.
Now, the source argues this whole conflict didn't just start overnight. Tensions really started to ramp up back in the 2000s when Hugo Chavez nationalized the oil industry, basically pushing American companies out. That single move triggered years of sanctions and economic pressure, which all came to a head in 2019 when the US blocked Venezuelan oil exports entirely. So, as you can see, this timeline really paints a clear picture of a long, simmering battle for control. And to really bolster its argument, the source directly challenges those official drug trafficking charges. It claims Venezuela is only a minor transit country and that most of the cocaine heading for the US travels a totally different route. It also points out that the deadliest drug in America, fentanyl, has absolutely no link to Venezuela. And then the source makes this really powerful parallel, comparing the drug charges to the now infamous weapons of mass destruction justification for the 2003 invasion of Iraq. So beyond the motives, the source argues an action like this would send shockwaves across the globe. It would fundamentally alter the rules of international relations and raise some really serious questions about legality and sovereignty.
And that brings us to a critical question posed by the source. Okay, setting aside the morality and the motive for just a second, was this hypothetical operation even legal?
Well, according to the analysis in the source, the answer is a pretty clear no on two different fronts. Domestically, an operation like this would completely bypass the U.S. Congress, which is supposed to be required to approve acts of war. And internationally, it would violate the UN Charter's core principle against using military force on another sovereign state.
The source actually gives this a name: New Age colonialism. It's defined as a powerful nation using its military might not to conquer territory in the old-fashioned sense, but to invade a sovereign country simply to seize control of its natural resources. Basically, it's colonialism for the 21st century.
You know, this whole hypothetical scenario from our source material leaves us with a fundamental challenge to the global order, and one last question to think about. When the nations that write the international rules are also the most powerful, are they still bound to follow them?